Hello, my name is Alicia Ayers, and I am with SCJ Alliance. We're working with the Montrose County Planning Department to update the master plan for the Montrose County. And tonight I'm going to go ahead and go through a presentation overview of the entire master plan update. We've already provided a pretty extensive public engagement process last fall and have been updating the master plan ever since that time. So what I'd like to share with you tonight is the outcome of all of that engagement and working with the county, working with stakeholders, working with the public, and the concepts that we've come up with through this master plan update. I will keep my camera off for the presentation and we'll rejoin you at the end as we close this out. Thank you for coming. So as you can see on your screen, like I said, this is for the Montrose County Master Plan. We're getting to the tail end of this planning process, and what we're doing tonight is doing a rollout of that master plan document. So what I'll be doing is going through each of the sections within the master plan, kind of laying the framework for why we do this planning process, what kind of information is collected, what are the goals and policies and some of the strategies and future visioning that the county is looking to achieve in this update process. Starting with an introduction to comprehensive planning and master planning. Those two words are kind of used synonymously. For Montrose County, they use the term master plan. So the master plan is several things. It's a generalized document that provides a really high level overview and guidance and direction for county growth and development. It's comprehensive in nature, and what that means is that it covers a plethora of different topics, and it's not just localized to a single area, but it spans across the entire county. It's long range, typically looking out at 5, 10, 20-year horizons. So it's long range in nature. It's not meant to be short. It's meant to look out into the future. The master plan can be ever evolving. It can shift directions, or not directions entirely, but it can kind of take on new life forms and implement new goals and objectives as things are checked off the list. So I mentioned that there are goals and policies in the master plan document, and that's really what the county uses in order to make change to reach that future vision. And so as things are evolving, counties can come back and cities can come back on occasion and do an update to that master plan where they take off those things that they've already achieved and they add in the new strategies to move on to the next step in their process. And the last piece is the master plan informs zoning. So the zoning code is what guides local development decisions and guidelines and requirements. And so the master plan really informs what that future vision looks like, which means what does it look like on the ground in terms of the built environment. Master plans are codified in the Colorado Revised Statute 30-28-106, as well as 31-23-206. And what that means is the state of Colorado, including the counties and cities and all the jurisdictions within the state, must create a master plan or a comprehensive planning document. There are not an overabundance of regulations on how you do this, but it is required that you do have a plan, but how you go about that planning process is up to the jurisdiction. So the Montrose County Master Plan specifically, not at the county level, but at the community level here for the county, is it guides growth and physical development. It helps to make land use decisions, particularly where things are located through the zoning code. So there's a residential code, or a retail, commercial, industrial area, and sometimes there are other things like park and recreation. And it tells the county planning department where different types of developments can occur, and then that helps to shape the future. The last plan for Montrose County was updated in 2010, and so right now is a really good time to look at the older plan, see what had happened, what's occurred since that time, and then make those updates to the goals and policies and future vision. And really, at the end of all of this, and I keep mentioning this word vision, that's really the most important piece of this, is that is that we are looking to the future, looking at the best interest of Montrose County. What is the most important thing to county residents to capture, like your culture, your heritage, the agricultural values that the community has, and how do we still embrace those things, keep them intact, but also realize that change is happening and growth is occurring, and where does that go? So the topics covered in the Montrose County Master Plan include the vision and values, agriculture, land use, water supply, economic development, transportation and utilities, and natural resources, and then recreation and tourism. The county is also divided into 5 different planning areas, and I'll show you a map here in a moment what that looks like. And so we realize that each of the planning areas has their own unique and distinct characteristics, but as a whole, all of these areas within the county are planning with these different topics in mind. So there's no size fits all to the plan. Some plan components, including land use, transportation, utilities, housing, and cultural resources, can take on different shapes and forms. It certainly is an update from the last master plan done in 2010, because that is quite a gap between updates. And new trends and best practices are included into this planning document as things have changed over time. So here's why the plan is important to you. It sets the foundation for the county planning efforts. It guides decisions for transportation, for housing, for recreation, which are all things that we need on a daily basis. And it really sets the county up to be able to respond to changing trends and growth, or even when there are insufficient amounts of housing, or we need to incorporate new jobs. How do we do that? That's what the master plan document is for. It also provides a structure for the county to make budget decisions and really look at what kinds of facilities and infrastructure need to be budgeted for, so that we can continue to provide these services to meet the demands. It helps the county continue to build communities within the county itself. So I did talk about those 5 different planning areas. Of course, there are distinct cities and towns within the county that also need help on occasion in building them, and what's the different characteristics of those. And so this document helps guide all of that. In the planning process, we always have a public engagement stage. And so what you see there on the screen is a wheel of our public engagement effort, starting with our core team. Our core team was made up of county representation from the planning department, public works, city administration, communications team, as well as the consultant team. And we had another public engagement lead and code lead on our team. So we start with our core team, and that team really follows the process all the way through. Our orientation interviews, we had about probably 60 different orientation interviews in small groups, followed by a community survey that lasted for several months, and then a week's worth of visioning workshops that were held in various locations in the county. Right now, we're at the master plan rollout, and that's what we're doing here today. And then we'll move right into the final presentation and adoption of the master plan in the next several months. So as part of our community engagement, I just wanted to show a couple of photos here. So we did a community forum in the city of Montrose. We had over 100 people show up, and they were really kind of interested in providing some feedback on the future vision, the issues and opportunities within the county. And then we took the same concept and presented that at the South Planning area for the city of Montrose. And so that was a well-attended event as well. It probably had between 50 to 100 people there. We also went out to Mayor as well as the West End to talk about the master plan document. Those venues were a little smaller crowd showed up. And so we were able to have both small group as well as one-on-one conversations with the community, talk about what's going on in their parts of the county and how we can help them and what their goals are. Here's a picture of the planning areas within the Montrose County. So over on the west side or left-hand side of the map from your screen is the West End planning area. This includes the towns of Nucla and Natarita. This place is a very rural setting. It's a little harder to get to, and so that's over the west end. Then we have the north planning area and the south planning area that basically divides the county north and south right there in the center. Olathe is located in the north and Montrose is located in the south. We've also added an additional planning area that's different from the previous master plan, which is the 3-mile boundary around the city of Montrose. And so that's presented there on the map. And over on the east side of the state or the county, in the right-hand corner there is the Mayor planning area. And so that mostly encompasses the town of Mayor. So county context. So through our planning process, we had identified several core values that the community said were critical for Montrose. And so here they are presented on the screen. The first one is agriculture, which is the cornerstone of Montrose County's heritage, economy, and way of life. Farmers and ranchers play a very critical role in preserving the natural resources and sustainable future for generations to come within the county. We saw this kind of over and over in all parts of the county. It definitely is a value that rose up high on the list. And so it is kind of the first one there on the list. Natural beauty was another one. So the natural scenery, including the majestic mountains, scenic valleys, picturesque rivers. Those are all things that attract outdoor enthusiasts and retirees, as well as tourism. Culture and heritage. So we found through our planning process that culture and heritage is a celebrated value within the county. Montrose has a rich history and preserving historical landmarks and traditions and contributing to a sense of place. So that rose high on the list. Collaboration. So the stakeholders as well as public told us that they really feel a sense of collaboration, and the Montrose County also values this so much through this process. They want to include residents, businesses, government agencies to address challenges and overcome their goals for a better Montrose County. Environment. So this is right up there with the natural beauty. And so the environment is valuing the rugged beauty and wild landscapes that define the county, finding a way to preserve them while also using the natural resources within them for future generations. Economic development was on the list, and that one was fostering a sense of community belonging and supporting local businesses, organizations, and initiatives that enrich lives of the residents. There are an abundance of natural resources, and those can be economic drivers for the county, but also the preservation of those areas and natural resources is also critical. Housing, so prioritizing affordable and workforce housing, ensuring all residents and income levels have access to safe, stable, and affordable housing options, retaining young families as well as senior living is also priority. Civic engagement, so valuing the engagement, participating in local civic in activities, encouraging residents to participate as well in making local decisions and in governance. And last one is sustainability, so committed to preserving and protecting the natural resources, promoting responsible environmental stewardship, and ensuring the long-term and well-being of the community for future generations. So the vision statement for Montrose County through this planning process reads as follows. Our vision for Montrose County is a vibrant and sustainable community that embraces its rich heritage while boldly charting a course toward a thriving future. Montrose County will continue to be a place where families thrive, seniors enjoy a high quality of life, and younger generations see boundless opportunities for the future. Preserving our lands, our farming and agriculture brought into a new future that is rich in history and embraces the new. And that's the vision statement for the master plan. So our next section is agriculture. Of course, agriculture is the big one for the county of Montrose. As I read in the vision statement, preserving our historical heritage and our agricultural lands is high on the priority list for residents and the county alike. So there's more than 330,000 acres of farmland in the county. That's a lot of farmland. And in subsequent slides, when I show you the maps, you'll see just how much, what that really looks like in a mapping sense. Compatibility of land uses is really important since we do have agriculture, readily available in any part of the county. The county is a right to farm jurisdiction. And so making sure that we have the right land uses next to one another and that those things are usually, noise, smell, all of those kinds of things that kind of come up. That's where the right to farm is protecting those farmers. Okay, land use. So within any master plan document, you always have a projected farm or projected land use section. And what this does is it guides the future growth and land use patterns of the county. It's mostly, like I mentioned, the county is mostly composed of agriculture and agricultural rural residential land uses. You're mostly going to see your suburban residential, any type of residential zoning or commercial and industrial that's going to kind of follow where some of our communities are and be on the periphery of those city boundaries, as well as along certain corridors. Within this master plan, we also have a couple of descriptors about the agriculture aesthetic as well as the urban aesthetic, because there can be a pretty stark difference between the two, especially when you get into the far reaches of the county, like the West End and Mayor, that is more rural. We wanted to make sure we created these aesthetics to really drive what the future vision is for those particular locations. So here is an image of the projected land use map, and you can see that the pink is the agriculture, rural, residential land use. Everything in green is agriculture, but by and large in the north and south planning area where Olathe and Montrose is and the surrounding area, those are mostly agricultural lands. The little red dots that are on the Highway 50, 550, and 90 are areas where there's concentrated development of commercial nodes. And so what the county is strategically trying to do is make sure that traffic is flowing, readily down those corridors, because they see that as such a major thoroughfare in the county. But also development does happen. And so where is that being placed and how do we plan for that? And those little red dots indicate those locations that are prime for that kind of thought process. And then the off-white area, because that's another really large area on the map, is the public and recreational land. So those are the lands where, they're federal lands, they're parks, that kind of thing, where it's all public. It's not necessarily owned by a private citizen or county or anything like that. It's public lands. Okay, and I was just mentioning the commercial nodes. So on the screen, you can see there are 6 different commercial nodes, but there are actually 10 in total. But what you're looking at here is an intersection along Highway 50 or 550, and then we've named them by their cross street. So up in the top left-hand corner, you see Amber Road. That's the node that intersects Amber Road and Highway 50. Off to the right, you have Vernal Road node. That's where Vernal Road intersects with 550. And these are zoning maps, so you can see how the concentration of zoning is starting to develop. And the county has a set of regulations on what can be developed here and what cannot, and how that interfaces with that highway transportation flow. And so really the purpose of the nodes is, designate these commercial and industrial areas along these highways and lead to more intentional growth of commercial uses and industrial uses in locations that make sense while preventing unwanted commercial sprawl. So growth in all different directions along major corridors where it doesn't make sense. And where increased development could lead to transportation impacts like slow traffic, delays, that kind of thing. Now, our next map is our special use map. So the County of Montrose has what they're called special uses. And what this means is that they require kind of a higher level of review by the county staff, the planning staff, when a permit application gets submitted to the county. That would include things like solar panel farms, the renewable resources, RV sites, and several other types of special uses that are within the county code. And so some of the things we were hearing through this planning process is not wanting to have certain special uses show up and be visible to your neighbor, your home, adjacent to your house, adjacent from a corridor that you travel to for work. And so this map really talks about how do we locate those special uses in places within the county that make sense. So for example, we've included on this map prime farmlands. Obviously, our vision as well as our values talks about agriculture, which leads to the prime farmlands. We want to be using those things for farming and not for things like renewable resource things like solar farms or RV sites. We really want to try to keep those things as prime farmland. But also we've included a buffer of 1 mile to 1/2 mile around major corridors, because within that mile to 1/2 mile, that's how far the human eye can see. And some of what we heard was, while next to a wheat field, having a special use or a type of development that just doesn't mesh well with the surrounding scenery. And so this map really lays out where some of those special uses can be located. We also thought it would be key to include the transmission lines as well as substations, because solar farms have to connect into the grid. It makes sense to locate them close to where they can do that. And so substations and transmission lines are those locations that we would be looking at. So this map, like I said, allows the county to preserve prime farmland views and locate special uses in an appropriate location so that they don't impact farmland and views, as well as linking up with the resources that they need to be successful. Okay, housing is also covered under land use. And so, as I mentioned, Montrose County is most interested in providing a variety of housing that meets different needs of different age groups and families versus seniors, and just having a wide variety of options available for folks. So, of course, as the county continues to grow, it will spur the demand of developing housing. So that is a given that we understand out of this planning process. And then housing within the urban growth boundary, particularly that 3-mile growth area around the city of Montrose, is going to be pretty key in the transition from county to more urbanized city lands, and really looking at how density plays a role in that area, and what kinds of housing get developed there and can be serviced by the city's services. So our next section is economic development. So within our economic development element, we're seeing a demand for healthcare facilities and medical services. Tourism and outdoor recreation was also another economic factor. Like I mentioned in the values, recreation and tourism, recreation particularly, Montrose offers a lot of opportunities for that. And so in terms of economics, when you bring people in to experience those things, you know, naturally you can you get more people spending money, staying in the towns, visiting local places, that kind of thing. But tourism doesn't just mean people from outside the county. It also means the people who live within the county and want to see, you know, other places within their county that, you know, tend to bring people in and are monumental. So agriculture and agribusiness, food processing and agritourism are also really big industries within the county, manufacturing and skilled workers, as well as renewable energy. So business retention and workforce development is a priority for the county and keeping these industries located there. And the ways for the county to support this endeavor is to collaborate with the local chambers so that they're getting the information they need about what kinds of developments can happen where from the county side, and then the chamber can share with the county what types of businesses they're learning from that are interested in coming into Montrose. Supporting economic development organizations, supporting tourism and destination marketing. And that's probably going to look a lot like partnerships with local agencies and local groups. Local governance and agencies, so supporting those governments and agencies within the county where, you know, there is a destination site in town or adjacent to town that may be impacting them in terms of an influx of more people. And then education institutions, those are always a great way to get the word out or come up with a study if you need to. Students are great to pull into projects like that. So transportation is our next section within the master plan. And the county has done quite a few studies, you know, active control plans, which I'll get into here in a minute, but also regionally, regional connectivity is pretty important because many of these roads don't just stop at the county limits. They go to the north and into the south and different places outside of the county as well. So Montrose County serves as a vital transportation hub. It links various communities, industries, recreational destinations, and so forth. There are some major transportation corridors within the county, which includes Highway 50, 550, 92, 90, 141, and 145. These all provided critical links between the nearby towns, cities, and the interstate in all directions within the county and outside. So these transportation services, of course, move people internally within the county, but they also move goods and services like logging, lumber, livestock, transportation of gravel, cement, building materials, and ag and farm into other places outside the county as well as within. So the commuters to and from work are attributed to a large volume of vehicles on the road in Montrose County, but there's also a lot of commuters who are coming through just to provide those goods and services locally, as well as taking that stuff out of the county. So I did mention the access control plans. The county has done a few of these and regularly updates them. The planning documents aim to address transportation access, traffic volume, safety concerns, improvements, impact of future development on the highway, and so on and so forth. And so they also provide strategies for addressing improved accessibility and connectivity for residents, businesses, and travelers along the corridor. Now, Highway Control Plan 550 is available. That was just updated June 2019. There's also an Highway Access Control Plan for Highway 50. And the strategy for Highway 50 was designed to manage access points along the corridor to enhance safety, improve traffic flow, and support regional growth. So the plans, they specifically outline measures for controlling the number and locations of driveways and intersections and access control points. This in turn reduces congestion and it minimizes potential conflicts between local and through traffic. Now, this is really important when we look at those nodes, because as we're looking at the nodes and we're seeing increased development for commercial, residential, and industrial, we want to make sure that we're not creating a bunch of driveways on and off that are going to limit how safe that intersection becomes. It impacts traffic flow. and how does it interact with the regional growth within the county. So that's what these access control plans are for. The next section that we have is our natural resources. So planning for natural resources, that's certainly something to think about and be intentional on within the county. The county is rich in mineral deposits, timber sources, waterways, and renewable resources like wind and solar. And so we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of those things because yes, they are natural resources that create economic development, but they're also the things that make Montrose what it is and the things that people come and see from all around. So natural resources definitely something to plan for within Montrose. And then there's also recreation and tourism. So as many of you who probably live here understand, you know, there's boundless outdoor recreational opportunities within Montrose County. There's a couple of destinations that have kind of propped up, and some of these cross over into the very adjacent, you know, jurisdictions. It's the Rimrocker Trail, which is in Montrose, Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. That's pretty close by the county there, which draws people from the county as well as other places. Gunnison Gorge Natural Conservation Area, the Montrose Water Sports Park, and the Uncompahgre Plateau. Those are all big things that drive recreation and tourism within the county. Again, attributing to the economic growth of the area, as well as preserving that natural beauty and some of the natural resources within those recreation areas. Okay, and that is the end of the presentation. I want to thank you for listening to this. And if you have questions, you can certainly reach out to me or the county. My information is on the bottom. And if you want to follow the QR code on the screen, you can leave your own comments online about the master plan or the planning process or anything that has to do with the master plan at that survey online. Thank you so much for coming today, and we hope to see you in Montrose County soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.